Caffeinated, feeling good? Is everybody feeling good? I've been drinking coffee since 5:30 this morning. I'm way ahead of everybody. Fired up. It is our 7th annual ACCC. Give yourselves a big round of applause for being here. Welcome once again. I am Billy Harris, the host with the most, the new spokesperson for the Rogaine Club for Men. It is going to be an exciting couple days. Thank you very much. It's my brother who just came, one person. All right, two very, very fun-filled, exciting days at our 7th annual ACCC. We have about 275 people here, about 50 people from the Axis staff. It is going to be a great day. If you have any questions, the Axis team is wearing the white lanyards. Be easy for you to find someone. But before we begin, do me a giant favor if you haven't done this. Turn to your left, turn to your right, turn to the person behind you. Just say hello to everyone. That's how we do these things. Shake their hands. We're all working together here. Probably a great idea. See, that's perfect. Just think. Now you don't have to speak to those people for the next 2 days. You got that out of the way right now. It's perfect. All right, it is going to be a great couple days. Without further ado, we're going to kick things off right. Please welcome the General Manager of Axis North America, my good friend, Mr. Frederick Nielsen, everybody.
Thank you, Billy. Good morning, everyone. Did everyone have a good evening yesterday? Anyone try the homemade cigars, whatever it's called? Enjoy those? Yeah? Well, I also had a great evening, but I must tell you that I'm having a fantastic morning. Because standing here, looking out on all those great partners and also people from Axis, it gives me such a great feeling. And as Billy said, his math is not his strength, but if you add those numbers up, Billy, there is, I think, close to 325 people in this room here. And just gives me a great feeling. And the best part of that is it's an all-time high for ACCC. And also that we didn't plan for this many, but we have a very flexible marketing department that managed to get you all in here. So if you're late to sign up and we're on the wait list and you got in anyway, make sure to thank Donna, Sue, and Brittany. So thank you so much for that. Anyone in the room here? Show of hands, or actually, since it's a little bit difficult to see here, who is at their first ACCC of our partners? Please stand up. Wow, look at that. Welcome, everyone, and I hope this is one of the first of many ACCCs that you will join. We hope that you come back for many years to come. And also out of the Axis team, who from the Axis team are at their first ACCC? Stand up. Look at that. I just want to make sure, Larry Che, where are you? You're sitting down? Good. Because yesterday I did the same thing in the practice, and he stood up. He's been like 10 years or so. But anyhow, we've added some 50 people since we met last year at the ACCC in Chicago to continue our growth. And that has been a great feeling for us to keep adding those people. There is also a small group in this room that are an exclusive group that actually did join us at the very first inaugural ACCC in San Diego in 2006. Anyone who remember that they were there? Could you stand up, those people? Molly? Danielle? If anyone doesn't remember if you were here, I have the picture. If you get the picture on the slide here. There's a picture. And I was looking at it yesterday trying to figure out who I recognize. And I see here a lot of known faces. Will Ferris I found. And down here I found a young Lee Mailer, a young Mike Duncan, and a young John Sullivan as well, and a number of other people. But remember, go back to 2006. In 2006, there was 90 of us total partners in Axis. Back then, we were around 30 people in the Axis team in North America. Today we're getting close to 250. Back then we had a session talking about growth and the opportunity we had ahead of us. And within Axis we had a goal of 5 by 5 to become a 5 times bigger company in 5 years. And I compare the revenue we did a prior year in 2005 with where we're going to come close to today, and that's almost 10 times larger than we were back there. So thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for those people who've been sticking with us for those years, and thank you for making it possible for us to grow this much. It's been an absolutely amazing trip so far. But the interesting thing is that it doesn't stop here. We have a lot more work ahead of us, and in order to see what will we have to do over the next 7 to 10 years, I'd like to have 2 people join me here on the stage. Bodil Sonesson, Global VP of Sales, and Martin Gren, co-founder of Axis. Welcome up. Welcome up. Donna, so have you seen Bodil or Martin? Has anyone seen them? Wow. The AV team, Martin always carries a camera. Can you see if you can get that camera online somehow? Oh, there he is. Okay, well that's good. We can always track Martin. That's what we're trying to do. So I wonder where they are. Wow, they're moving. Okay. Oh, there we go. Wow, that's a cool new toy you've got there, Martin. Yeah, what is the best feature of this car?
Well, this car, the main features, I think, are all the cameras and the fact that you can drive indoor. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's an automatic camera that moves with the steering wheel in the front, and I noticed that you have the world's most expensive rear view mirror here with a camera and a little iPad.
Oh, it's so cool. I mean, a modern car has like 17 cameras nowadays.
Yeah, that is great. Well, welcome, Martin.
Thank you.
And Bodil, what was it like going with Martin? It must have been a little bit of an interesting trip.
I would say it's always an adventure to drive with Martin. He's famous for a lot of things. I'm not sure for driving.
No.
But I was in his car a few weeks ago in Sweden, and it felt much safer because the car kept the distance to the car in front, and when it came too close, it stopped by itself. Yeah, so that was a nice experience.
That was my new Raider with the adaptive cruise control. But the really cool thing is the Wi-Fi hotspot.
Okay, yes. So a lot of toys.
That's good. So welcome up here on stage. We were chatting a little bit about the ACCC back in 2006, Bodil. Okay. And I believe, or I know, you were there.
Yes,
so
I was.
What's your memories from that event?
I actually looked by coincidence on the presentation a few weeks ago on the 2006 event, and we did a presentation together, you and I, and it was called From Rare to Unique. And I think that was symbolizing the fact that we were beginning of the IP revolution. It was the early days. What was really nice was that there was a lot of things on the strategy that was the same. I would say that the only thing that has changed was that the numbers are much, much bigger today. So we have 10 times more partners today, and we've trained 100 times more people in the Axis Communications Academy.
Wow, but the strategy is pretty much the same.
Pretty much the same.
Martin, what do you remember from the ACCC back in 2006?
Well, my number one memory is the fact that you didn't invite me. So, as I love San Diego, I mean, that's something I may not never forget.
Okay.
But what I do remember is that back then in 2006, there was this huge hype of video analytics. And everyone told us that if you don't do video analytics, you're going to die. So at Axis, we listen to our customers, as we always do. And we developed this really strange video encoder, which was made specifically for video analytics. And as the video analytics industry was all hype, once Lehman Brothers went bankrupt, actually we didn't see any sales of the video analytics at that time, and this product, it turned out to be not so well selling. Actually, I managed to rescue one, so I still have one in my office, but I don't know how to use it.
No. So if any one of those have those encoders still, I think it's becoming collectible because we want some of them back. We pay you good money for them, so we didn't sell a lot of them. So I said I want to have you up here on stage to kind of do a little review of what we did since we met last year, and also kind of look into the future a little bit. But I found something a little bit awkward. In the past, me and Bodil has done a lot of intros at the ACCCs, and it feels pretty natural to be two people going back and forth a little bit. And last year we had a panel discussion, and the year before that as well, where there was 3 people, and I was moderating the panel. And that's also kind of makes sense. But when you're 3 people, that's kind of just an odd number. So I was thinking to myself, what are we going to do here? And I think we kind of like having some fun, so I figured if we could do some kind of game show, that could be fun.
Yeah.
Are you ready for a game show?
We can try.
You can try? Okay, so what do you need to have a successful game show? Well, first of all, you have to have a host that kind of host a game show. And of course, we're well connected being Axis, so I called Ryan Seacrest. But unfortunately, he had an appointment with a hairdresser to get his highlights today, so he couldn't come. Then I realized that the looks is very important. If you're in kind of the host business, it's important what you look. And of course, we have our own good-looking host ourselves. Billy Harris, where are you? Hiding in the room somewhere? No? He's taking the break. Yeah, he worked for 5 minutes. You need to take a break now. But anyhow, I figured that looks is important. And I was traveling around the globe over the last year, and I found that the look of Billy Harris is actually the look you have to have as a host. I was at an event in China, and our host there looked like this. That's a Chinese cousin to Billy Harris. And then Laura travels to Spain to find this guy. I mean, it's unreal. So then I realized there's actually a website called looklikebillyharrisandhostinevent.com. So I actually went there, and I managed to get the starter kit for it. So this is what it's going to look like. So now I'm a talk show host here. So I was thinking to myself, what kind of show can we have? And this feels really silly. What kind of game show can we have? And I was surfing a website and look at famous TV shows for game shows. Billy, I was just making fun of you and missed it. Okay, the only time I have to make fun of you. So I was looking at those sites. What is the most popular game shows on TV? One of the top one was Family Feud. Have you ever been fighting?
No, I never fight.
No.
Not with Bodil.
No,
Okay.
Friends.
So that was a bad choice. And then I was thinking another one, Who Want to Become a Millionaire? But Martin pretty much won that already.
Yeah,
so
I don't
let's
even
skip
going
that.
to try to compete.
So then I was thinking about another game that I played with my sister. I was a middle child and had an older and younger sister, and we were playing those games. And one game we had was, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? What's your favorite number? And then we kind of argue who was right and who was wrong. It must have annoyed the heck out of my father driving the car, because that's what we're doing in the backseat. This is long before hotspots in cars or DVDs and those kind of things. But let's kind of play that game here a little bit. And I've figured out a couple of categories for you.
Okay.
I'm going to start with you, Bodil. If you look back until we met last year in Chicago at the ACCC, what was your favorite moment last year?
That's an easy one for me. I know what's my favorite moment this year. That was when we got our partner satisfaction study back. We did one in 2010 where you were giving feedback, and we got 74% of our partners being highly satisfied with Axis, which was a very good number already then. And so for me, being in my role, it's a little bit like getting my grades when you go to school, when we were going to get the new results. So I was a bit anxious about it. And then we got the results of it, and we were 6 points up. So we got 80% of our partners being highly satisfied with Axis, which I think was a pretty good score. We were very happy about it. What I personally was the most happy about is that you've always liked us for our products and our quality. But what you recognized this time as well was actually the human factor. You gave a lot of positive comments about the professionalism in our sales force, for example. And I think that shows that the investment we've been doing in investing into people for the last few years has been paying off, and that feels very good. And also many of you, I want to thank you because you gave a lot of feedback, and we like both the negative and the positive. We have people writing pages back to us in terms of feedback, and I can tell you we read it all. We look at it and we go through it. So thank you very much for that. My best moment.
Your best moment.
Yes.
If I look at my best moment liking numbers, I think a lot of you know the IMS, or what's today called the IHS report, and by June, beginning of June, they came out with the numbers for 2012. And we've had as a goal to become the #1 video surveillance company in North America for quite a number of years. And finally, reading the report, going to the page 300 something, I saw there in the whole video surveillance category, Axis is listed on the top, and I just want to thank you for making that possible for us and helping us to that position. So that was such a great feeling. And then I was, of course, looking kind of who's #2 and who's #3. And we have this contract with IMS where we can't give out more information than kind of what we see in the slide here. But just to give you a hint, on #2 there was a French conglomerate. On #3 there was a German conglomerate. On #4 there was a Japanese conglomerate. And on #5 there was an American conglomerate. So what kind of does this tell us? How are we different from those other companies? Well, in total size, we're definitely much smaller, but there's something to be said about focus and just doing one thing and focusing on doing that as well as possible. The other thing that I think is important is partnerships. We're never trying to do this on our own. We try to do it with all you together. Another interesting thing to look at this report is 5 years ago, I think it was, 5 or 6 years ago, Axis was right around #10 on that report. And just a couple of years later, we're #1. That just shows how quick change can go when you have a big technology change going on. And it also highlights for us how quick change can go for us if we don't keep investing in the business and moving forward, because we can never relax. We always need to remain humble and realize that now everyone else want to get after that #1 position. Martin, what's your favorite moment?
Well, my favorite moment was probably 2 weeks ago when we launched the access control. Because this was the first new product category in 18 years for Axis, truly new category. And of course, I mean, that's been really exciting. We've been working for a long time on it, and we're going to tell you more about. And what I was thinking about when launching a new product category is who's going to be the first user of this category. Because for the network camera, when we introduced that in 1996, we learned that the first user, I mean, we never talk directly to end users, but they call in sometimes for tech support and others. And the first guy to get our net eyes was, as some of you may know, Mr. Steve Wozniak. So now at ACCC, the was a keynote speaker, and I wanted to see him. So I actually got to see him and sit down with him for half an hour, and he's a really cool guy. So I asked him, so I said, I know that you actually was the first customer of our net eyes, and you got 2 of them. And he replies and says, hell no, I didn't just get 2 of them. I got a good bunch of them, and I still keep them. So we got a really happy first customer, and in the same way we had Mr. Andy Rubin for the video encoders. So the big question is, who's going to be the first customer of access control? So I asked the boss, so would you like to be the first customer of access control? And he said, well, I'm not into doing early products any longer. I want the access control to integrate so I can use my cell phone to open the car and the house. And we're not quite there yet, but we got some challenges for the engineering team back in Sweden out of this.
So it's been a good year since we met last year, and normally when you have an introduction at an event like this, it's a lot of things about corporate numbers and what do we achieve there, what's the revenue and so forth, and that gets a little bit too boring, I think. However, I am a numbers guy, so we can't leave it totally out. So I have to ask you, and I'll start with you, Martin, what is your favorite corporate number over last year?
Well, my favorite number could be the amount of Axians we are around the globe. Because by half year, we were about 1,500 Axians all around the globe dedicated to network video. And that's been truly amazing because ever since I was a child, I mean, I grew up and my parents, they were all teachers. And when I was 11 years old, I decided I do not want to be a teacher. I do not want to be employed by the state. So having your parents as teachers has drawbacks. They can't fix your part-time jobs and so on, so you have to make your own money. So what I did was that I began doing, my first product was actually disco lights. And the disco lights, they were really good match because this was the days of John Travolta and Grease and so on. So they were actually selling like hotcakes. And I learned also about how to sell because at first I sold to some of my friends and then I sold to some of my classmates. And then after a while my classmates asked, so I can resell it for you in the city where I live. So I actually built up a small ecosystem. I learned about the hard way of being loyal to the customers so somebody does not sell to each other's territory, which was the structure I had. I had some shy guys. They did the procurement of components. There was one guy who was mending cables and plates. And my little sister, she was etching the PCB cards. So I learned a lot out of this little business. And I really wanted to build these electronic products and get a lot of happy customers. So, well, here I am. I mean, we do cool electronic products. We spread them all around the globe. And I'm a teacher of IP video. So I ended up being a teacher, and stripes never go out of a tiger, as we all know. Maybe Fredrik is about to write a new book now.
But at least you're not paid by the government, because in that case you wouldn't be paid today. So.
That's the beauty.
That's another story. Bodil, you also like numbers, and there's a lot of corporate numbers in your world. What is your favorite one?
Yes, I like numbers as well, and I think I have to working with you, because all of your head is full of numbers, no?
It's full of numbers.
Yes.
That's all it is.
So I've chosen the number which is the number of new offices we have, and I actually don't have a number, I have a few pictures, so I got away with it. But when you grow as much as we do, sometimes I feel like a facility manager, because I think that every week or every second week I have somebody coming in they're asking me for a new office, a refurbishment, or a new floor. And here you can see a few offices around the world that we've opened. Can you see, this is Japan. You can see the local culture as well. You see the white gloves. It's a bit more formal than it would be if we would open a new office here, I think. And it continues, because I think I got a mail in my inbox this morning asking for a new office in Malaysia. And last week I had a renovation in Australia. So we're keeping up the traffic in terms of opening new offices.
So my favorite number is this number here, 8,700. Any guesses what that is? Has anyone in this room been to the newly opened Axis Experience Center in Chelmsford? Hands up. Okay, a number of people have been to that. Mm-hmm. That has been a very successful experience for us, for bringing partners, bringing customers to get the Axis experience, to do training. So the number here, it's not the number of people who's been to that experience center yet. We're getting there. However, it's an address. It's 8700 West Bryn Mawr Highway, and that's the address of the next office we're going to open here in North America, which is going to be in Chicago in a couple of months. And we hope to see you all there in Chicago, and welcome to that. If you're closer to travel there than to the one in Chelmsford, you're very welcome to come there. It will be office to host a couple of our people there, but most importantly, it will be for our partners. It will be training facilities and an Axis Experience Center.
But you're always welcome to Sweden as well.
I'm always welcome to Sweden. That's good. As long as I don't have to go there between November and April, I'm fine. So another number that we do a lot of is products. And as you all know, I think we used to say 30, now it's closer to, actually now it's over 40 new products every year. Since we met last time in Chicago, there's 40 new Axis products. Even I have a difficult time keeping up with them. But if you look at all those products, what would be your favorite one, Bodil?
I think I'll choose the 5414, which is our new Pantil Zoom dome, and I'll choose it for its looks. I guess you all don't look at this picture. That's not because of the looks. I'll tell you why. I guess we all suffer from the same disease when you work in the video surveillance industry. Do you also go when you walk around cities and airports, etc.? You go and you look everywhere, and I almost think sometimes when I'm in some markets that I'll get into trouble. I haven't been getting into trouble yet, but you look in city surveillance environments as well, and this picture is from Rome. So you can see they've been adding on some camera, but they haven't been thinking that much about the aesthetics of the city. And I think it shows also that pan-tilt zoom cameras, they look pretty much the same. So when we did the 15.4.14, that you will see more about during these 2 days, we decided to do something differently. First, it's, as you can see here, the very passionate product manager sitting on the front. He's having a good time installing it because that's easy. But here is what I wanted to show. It's wall-mounted, first pan-tilt zoom wall-mounted, and it's really easy to paint. So that means that it will fit much better into the environment, and we will have, when we're getting a lot of pan-tilt zoom domes around there, we will have much nicer looks to look at. So that's my favorite product.
Great. Good design. What about you, Martin? Is a new design product, a camera, your favorite, or what is your favorite?
No, I just make it simple. I mean, I like to pave a path for even more network cameras. And what's the best way to do it if it wasn't for encoders? I just love encoders. Because what we know for sure is that customers who buy encoders, they will get addicted to network video, and then they will buy network cameras. So if I take some of my favorite encoder products, we have like the 7216, which is our new full frame rate encoder, which is only $81 per channel. And I remember one of my favorite customers, that's Sydney Airport, because Sydney Airport, they got 500 encoder channels for the year 2000 when they hosted the Olympic Games. And today, they have replaced all their analog cameras. Actually, they have acquired some buildings with built-in analog cameras, but so they keep on buying encoders. But now they have 2,500 IP cameras, all Axis, and it's a beautiful installation. And it's thanks to the encoders. So
so can you actually say that having encoders is kind of recurring revenue? You kind of keep selling to the same customer over and over again?
It's exactly what it is. I mean, it builds up those recurring revenues. And if we look on numbers, I mean, it's still that the market of the install base by number, it's like 90% of our old cameras are analog, and it's still by number 80% sold, which are analog. That's not by price. So you can imagine what a potential that is for selling encoders.
And I know that when you walk around in Lund, you share your passion for encoders, and a friend took this picture of you walking around in the Experience Center in Lund, and if you actually blow up, highlight here the picture, you're wearing this badge, I love encoders, Martin. So that actually shows how you're passionate still about the encoders when you walk around.
Oh, I thought you, oh, sorry.
Oh, you have it there.
I normally don't wear a jacket, but I got it here.
Do you sleep with that as well? Yeah.
I usually do, and I'm afraid here that you're not wearing your encoder badge.
Okay, sorry.
So,
sorry.
Actually, I want you all to say after me, I love encoders. 1, 2, 3. I love encoders. Yes. So here's an encoder badge for you.
We all love encoders, Martin.
We all love encoders. Feel passionate about them.
Very good. So if I had to pick my favorite, I'll cheat this a little bit as well. I won't pick one product, but actually a product category. And the product category is fixed domes. And over the last year, we launched a lot of products thanks to our great product manager, Petra, who's somewhere. You're going to meet her later. There you are. Thank you so much. And it's basically 2 series, the M30 series and the P33 series. I don't know if any of you track the price list that comes out, but as you saw those new products came in, they actually came in at the 20% average lower cost than the previous generation, and it was a much better product. Anyone who's in sales like a low price on a product until you realize how many more you have to sell to kind of make up for that number. So we realized we had to make up a lot we still need to sell a lot more. So the question is, do we succeed? Actually, we overachieved to the extent so we couldn't deliver throughout Q2 on some of those products. We had growth way more than 50% in this product category, fixed dome, because of that. And really what that shows me is exactly what Martin said. There's still a lot of analog cameras, new cameras being sold, and the price elasticity was very, very high. So we actually converted a lot of products that would have been analog, now thanks to those products, into IP. So that has been absolutely a huge success, I think, and my favorite product category. One thing that is near and dear to our heart is partnership. We talked about that before. Focus was one reason that took us to this position, and partnerships was the other one. And we kind of describe that model in what we call our little ecosystem with the different categories here. So looking at all those partnerships we have, you both travel the globe. What is your favorite story out there when it comes to partnerships? Martin?
Well, we have quite a bunch of partner programs, and one of my favorites is actually the technology partner program. And we have a good bunch of these, and what we have learned is that ever since we began doing network video, these actually basically came with an IT background. So most of the technology partners are IT companies. And that also reflects, I mean, how we have been working in the past. The first camera was actually launched at N+I, which is an IT trade show, not at like ISC or ASIS. I mean, during the years, we realized that those were quite important as well for us. So, and now, looking ahead of us, I mean, we actually see more and more going on from the IT side of the business. I mean, the physical security industry is also important to us, but we see a little bit of a shift towards IT.
And we actually recognize that as well. It's funny coming from the IT side, and most of our sales goes to security partners today. And the question is, how does IT influence this? We conducted a research. We hired some external research company, and we asked them to call out to IT end users, so IT managers at different companies. And we just got the result the other week, so I don't have all the final numbers. But some of the interesting stats was that 47% of the IT managers that was asked, and there was a couple of hundred of them, said that they were involved somehow in physical security installations. So it's probably good to have them in the room when you discuss physical security. The other interesting stats which I brought for you, Martin, is that 80% of them told that they will use encoders to bring in the analog cameras in the system. So they're well aware of it. They maybe also love encoders. Bodil, what's your favorite partnership ecosystem story?
I have many favorite stories on that side, but I'll choose one from our ADP partner sides, from our software partners, because I think it illustrates so well the beauty of best in breed when you have a good interface to integrate with. And this is a story. I was at a partner conference like this a few weeks ago in France, and I met over lunch. I sat down next to a partner, and they were doing nothing but maritime security surveillance. So they were a software partner of ours, and they were specialized in looking into movement of water during daytime and nighttime, and they did nothing else. So can you imagine that we would do such an application if we didn't have a software partner doing it? So for me, it shows that by having so many partnerships, we can serve many different needs of the customers. So that was my short story from the software side.
That's a good one. My favorite is also an ADP story. And if you know the ADP program, we launched it some 13 years ago, and we have over 1,000 partners. And there's basically two sets of partners. There is one that is doing the server-based software for integrating different video management and access control systems. And the other one is a group of companies that develop applications that run on board of the camera using the ACAP, the Axis Camera Application Platform. And as you also know, Axis is a very long-term company, and some people more long-term than others. So thanks to Scott Dunn and also Rob Muehlbauer and team, they started to work not only with companies, but also with schools, universities. So back in April at the ISC West show, we launched a relationship with the first school, the Wentworth Institute of Technology, close to Boston, that will use our cameras and the ACAP platform in their computer science labs and their curriculum to kind of teach people how to do embedded encoding and how video kind of works. The good thing for us here as an industry is that we get more people attracted to the security industry, because if you ask any young smart engineer what they want to work on, it's not normally that they want to go into security. It's Apple, you know, Google, all those fancy companies, social media, but security is something that most people don't know. So that is great. Also, it teaches us all to think outside of the box, because the kind of applications those young engineers did in just a couple of weeks was kind of amazing, and things we haven't thought about. And what I really liked about this story, the picture on the bottom here is from the press breakfast, and they got all the attention, so I didn't have to say anything. That was a good part of it. And the other thing is that the professor looked exactly like a college professor should look like, with the patches on the arms and everything. He was perfect. And even better was that the two engineers he brought with him looked like real computer nerds. We could have done better if we staged people for this. And I was just looking at them, I was thinking to myself, had this been 15 years ago, they probably would have been developing disco lights, Martin.
Yeah, and you would probably need some more stuff in your hair to look like Billy Harris.
Exactly. So another thing that's near and dear to our heart and that we had to focus on early on is education. Because early in the days of IP, we didn't have a big team, we didn't have a big budget. How do we reach this with this message of the greatness of IP? And we focus on education. So Bodil, what's your favorite story when it comes to education over the last year?
I have a story. I actually like to thank somebody that I hope it's in the audience, which is Michael from Digital Surveillance. Are you here, Michael? Yeah, you are. Do you remember we had a discussion last year at ACCC about an engineer that was working for you that came from Indonesia? Yeah, and he'd been working for you for 7 years, and you said he's a very good engineer, but now he wants to move back to Indonesia. So you sent me his CV that I passed on to our organization in Singapore, our regional office, including Indonesia. And then I got a mail a few weeks ago from a guy called Andy saying, "Hi, now I'm working for Axis. Thank you very much."
Oh, I'm glad we're getting that Indonesia office soon.
Yeah, you wanted that for a long time. But I have, in the sales organization at Axis, it's 666 people. I try to know everybody, but I don't. So, of course, I answered back saying, "Who are you and where do you work?" And he said, "I'm Andy and I'm working in Indonesia as a sales engineer. I used to work at Digital Surveillance." So that, I think, was a very nice story. But the best thing about it is that this guy was an Axis certified professional. And we haven't opened the certification in Indonesia yet. So thank you for paying the certification for the Axis employees that we can employ later on. I'll keep that in mind.
That's partnerships. You give and you take. Very good. It's interesting. I put this slide here together. We didn't have a picture of Andy, but they got this certificate of Larry Newman when he got certified. If he now is certified, that's still to be discussed and debated. Anyhow, my favorite story is also about certification, and that's the story about Dave Friedeck, and he's not here, but Dave Friedeck, who's standing to the left of Martin here in this picture, is one of the gold partners out of California. His company is called TRL System, and the reason we brought up him is that a couple of weeks ago he became the external number 1,000 Axis certified professional in North America. And of course, I know many of you in the room are certified as well. So we want to thank you for supporting the program. This was something unique. We thought that the industry needed to have a professional certification done by an external company, and the response has been tremendous, and it's great to, with your help, been able to reach this 1,000 milestone. But education doesn't stop with our partners. Education is essential to ourselves and our own salespeople. And in the beginning of this year, in order to get better understanding of the needs of the customer, we decided to launch an initiative to have our own salespeople certified with an ASIS, the big association for end users, their PSP certification. Anyone in the room of the Axis staff that is PSP certified, could you stand up here so we see a couple of you? I think there should be totally in the staff throughout North America, there's 10, 15 people, and I got commitment from close to 30 or close to 40 people by the end of the year to be PSP certified. Just to show that we want to understand the market as good as we can and come close to the end users. Martin, education. Near and dear to your heart, right?
Yes, all my relatives are teachers. Actually, I'm the black sheep because I'm not an Axis certified professional, and I didn't even make my university degree because I founded the company, while still studying. So that's a bit of a shame and something, my relatives will never forgive me for. But I have a different view on it, and one education that we have been doing, training, is on the small systems. That's been a major initiative for us during the last few years. And now finally that pays off. We have seen on how to address these sites which has a few cameras per site, but a lot of locations. So one example is a big retailer in Mexico who's got thousands of locations with a couple of cameras per site and who's using the Axis camera companion. We, of course, have also Frederick's favorite coffee store. I used to live in Boston in the early 90s, and then I got addicted to Dunkin' Donuts. But I made a bet with Frederick that if he could sign up Starbucks as a customer, then I will start drinking Starbucks coffee instead. So that's been good. And unfortunately, I have to drink Starbucks coffee nowadays.
Unfortunately?
No, actually, I'm very proud of the fact that we managed to secure Starbucks. And actually, I learned to like it. It's just an old habit that's difficult to change. So I want you to win Dunkin' Donuts, but I'm not going to force you to switch coffee supplier.
No, in that case, I will avoid. But I have another bet for you, Martin. If we win Dunkin' Donuts here with our great sales team, do you promise that I never have to drink Dunkin' Donuts at your house anymore?
That's a promise.
That's a deal.
Deal.
Very good. So that's kind of reviewing what we've done over the last year. A lot of things have happened since we met last time in Chicago. We're trying to summarize them. But let's look a little bit forward. Let's look into the next 7 or 10 years. Since we met last time in San Diego in 2006, Axis North America has grown around 10 times, both by staff and revenues. So the question is, what is going to make us grow to that extent over the next 7 years, Bodil? And looking at that and looking at the future, I figured there's a lot of trends. And there's a lot of people kind of capturing trends and telling what will affect us. But out of those trends, Bodil, what do you think is the most important and what's going to affect us?
I will choose an end-user trend, which you highlighted to before, which was the research you were doing in terms of how much is the IT manager involved. And we actually had that in our slides from 2006 as well. But today, I think what we really see happening is a partnership on the end-user side between the IT and the security manager. And I was listening to Saks Fifth Avenue. They were telling their story. And the security manager were telling his story about how they deploy the network video system. And he was so enthusiastic about his partnership with IT. He said, I went there, I told them all the bad stories I heard, and I told them I don't want to have those bad stories. And he said, you know what? They delivered everything to me. I have had no problems. And I think that partnership between IT and security is going to become more and more important. And for those of you who are system integrators in this room, I think it's very important to take that role and to facilitate that. Because sometimes stories we've heard in the market is that has been one of the tough parts. And I think if we're able to reach that and do that, and also from our side, we're doing more and more. You spoke about it before, Martin, but towards the IT manager to have them, to make them understand how they can help out. And it's no coincidence that we've been present at Interrupt for the last 3 years, having our own booth.
No, and I think that's important. I think all of you sitting in the room, you're probably aware of it, but there was a big integrator that was not really aware of it. And when I talked to them at ASIS, they said, in the past, when their salespeople came to a meeting and the IT manager was in the room, they used to run. And he said, today, we've told them not to take a meeting unless the IT manager is in the room, because they will otherwise block the system. They will not steer the deal, but they will block the system if they don't know what's going on. Martin, what's the favorite trend that you have, that you can see?
Yeah, I can also confirm to Fredrick's trend. I mean, I remember I was visiting a big retailer in Australia and had a meeting, and the head of IT, he was quite a strange guy, but it was clear that it was the head of IT who was the decision maker. So I've seen that a couple of times myself. But when it comes to trends in cameras, I mean, there are so many. I can talk about that for hours. But just make it simple. I mean, it's obviously better image quality for all types of occasions, such as low light, such as wide dynamic range, such as higher megapixels and so on, with a limit of obviously being useful. It's probably because of the simple fact that my eyes are so bad.
You need
I
good
can't
cameras.
see anything without the glasses.
So if you look at the video here,
this is so cool. I mean, this shows, how actually network cameras can outperform not only standard cameras, but also the human eye. I mean, we've been talking about this for years, how the light finder technology actually shows you that the sky is blue at night.
Yeah. So the vision is becoming better, but the question is the machines becoming smarter? Well, you had your car there in Sweden, apparently, that is becoming a little bit smarter. But let's see what's happening in other parts of the market. Does anyone recognize this device here? Anyone have them at home? The Nest thermostat that claims to be an intelligent thermostat. I actually had to check it out, so I bought 2 of them for my home. And the thing is that it figures out the schedule itself, because most people never set up the schedule. They just keep it on the same temperature day around. And it claims to save around 20%, and I believe it actually does. So it actually is an intelligent device. We did talk about cars as well. Here represented by lane departure warning. Martin's car, I think it's braking on its own if you're getting too close to a bicycle at the Axis parking lot there, which is good, save some engineers. And both Mercedes...
You feel very safe.
Yes. Both Mercedes and Nissan has done press release over the last couple of weeks say by year 2020, we will have cars that drive themselves. So the question is video surveillance and cameras becoming more intelligent as well? Well, we did talk about the relationship with some of the universities, and we also know that when it comes to detecting license plates or counting people or tracking people going on finding people that go on a track, cameras are much, much more dependable today than humans. So I definitely think that the trend of more intelligent and integrated system we talked about in the past, it is happening right now.
So how come it didn't make it into your BMW?
No, because I couldn't afford it. I'll talk to Boll about that. What is your favorite statistics here? That's the next category here. We have different statistics out there and kind of ties into the trends. But when it comes to different statistics that comes out from market research and so forth, what is the one that you think is the most important, Martin?
Well, I think it's more slow, and more slow works in so many areas. And my favorite area, I think, is the edge-based storage that is growing and growing. So it used to be like $100 for a 32 gigabyte card, and today it's about $20. And we can make some projections. I mean, today you get almost a week of full HD recording on an SD card. That's at $20. And by year 2020, we estimate that you can probably get 1 year of video storage at the edge in HD quality. Now, that's certainly one of the important trends that's going to affect us a lot in this industry. Then there are other trends in here, and obviously what storage comes with, of course, better image quality, lower noise, and better compression. And there's been a lot of talk about the new H.265 standard, and just let me go through some history of standardization of compression. Because when we did the first network camera, we were using Motion JPEG, which was basically defined, I mean, like 1995, and we used it in the NetEye quite early. Then after a while, I mean, we obviously got requests for better bandwidth, and in 1998, the MPEG-4 standard was ratified. But it wasn't until the year of 2003 when we introduced the first MPEG-4 cameras. And it actually took still quite a while, if at all, our VMS partners implemented support for MPEG-4, because after all, it was quite a crappy standard. But there is a time delay there of 5 years. And then if we look on H.264, so H.264 made it in 2001, 2002 something, was ratified, and it was by the year 2008 that it became mainstream. And that was because the whole ecosystem, it's not just enough that a manufacturer has support for it, it has to be the VMS, the monitors, decoders, and so on. The whole ecosystem, otherwise you can't use it. So again, it was actually an even longer period for the H.264 to make it into products. And now, this year, the H.265 has been ratified. And we believe it will take some time until it makes it into the products. And in the meantime, there is still a lot more work to be done in H.264, because it's a standard that allows improvements. So we have a high profile, main profile, and so on. There are various ways to innovate within H.264 in order to make the ecosystem work together. So I think this is a good trend as well.
My favorite statistics by far was a market research that I haven't seen in the past, and I'm not sure if they've done it in the past, but ASIS, this great association for end users, they did one, and they came up with this number, $350 billion. That was the size of the total security market in the United States in 2012, 350 billion. Think to yourself, how much are you or we getting out of that? A very small piece. So what comprises this market? Well, some 80 billion is IT security. And we heard about the importance of IT and so forth. And some 70 billion is Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security. But 200 billion is private security. And the question is, how are those money being spent? And if you look at the size, I estimate the size of the video surveillance market, they sure don't spend it a lot on video surveillance. So what do they spend on? A lot of it is being spent on very low-tech kind of measures, and especially a lot of guards, police, fences, and those kind of things. So the big question is, why do we do better camera? The reason we do better cameras is so we can shift some of the revenues and do the job better at the better value than the other means of security that are out there today. And only 2 weeks ago, I visited a customer that kind of gives the proof that with better image quality and other things, it's possible to get more money for video surveillance than it was in the past. This customer was the US Cellular Stadium in Chicago, where the White Sox play, and the security manager there was so enthusiastic. It was so funny to talk to him. He used to have 31 analog cameras, and he said he had guards running around between the different things. They couldn't track things. They couldn't find the recordings easily. The quality wasn't good enough when they had lawsuits and so forth. They wanted to make it secure, and they had contacted an integrator, and the integrator came up with the idea that they needed 300 cameras to get good coverage. They put it in there, and he said the ROI of the system was less than 6 months because of the decrease of lawsuits they have and how they quickly could dispatch the guards to the right location when it happened, not 5 minutes after when the people have disappeared from there. And he said it was one of the best investments. And the best quote was at the end. He said, those IP cameras are addictive. I want to have 600 now. And we like to have something that's addictive. So that's by far my favorite stat.
It's an RMR business.
Yes. Bodil, you like stats as well.
Yes, I do. And I was reading an article in the Times Magazine a few months ago that was doing a poll in the US looking into how is the acceptance of security today comparing to 9/11. And you can see the stats here that the acceptance had actually been going down. When you look into more monitoring parts of internet and cell phone, etc., there wasn't a high acceptance for that. But when you looked into video surveillance, 81% of the US audience were extremely positive. And I think the reason for that is that we have seen very unfortunate terrorist attacks, but they've been solved very quickly thanks to the video surveillance. So I think there is when I compare, looking back 10 years, there is a big change today how people see video surveillance. And that's something I see that throughout the world. We are from a very conservative country, being Sweden, in terms of that, and even Sweden has changed its legislation to make it easier to put up video surveillance today because of the good results. So that was my statistics.
So if you look at the last category here and kind of sum it all up with looking into the future, how do you see our future potential, Martin? How would you like to summarize that?
Well, I mean, our future is that we have to take a big picture, and the big picture is, what is it we really want? And the fact is that, I mean, our problem is not that people want a camera. Nobody wants a camera. What we really want is obviously a safer world. And to become a safer world, we have learned that technology can actually help you a lot. And yesterday evening, at the cocktail reception, I spoke to the Securitas people. Are you here? And you explained exactly this trend that Fredrik is explaining as well. I mean, you are one of the largest guarding companies in the world, and still you are now shifting from just guarding into technology. And that is because the technology can guide the guards in a much better way and make them more efficient by having information like in their tablets and smartphones right away in order to reduce the time it takes for them to come to an incident. So I think that using technology in a clever manner can really secure and make our society a nicer place to be in.
If I look at the future potential, I think the most important thing we can do is to educate the end user that the world of video surveillance is changing. Internally, we've kind of been discussing this for a couple of years and came up with kind of this way of describing video surveillance in 3 different phases. Before year 2000, there was kind of the phase of deterrence. The major need for the camera was to deter the bad guys to go from one store to the other store. Because at the end of the day, the cameras were big, ugly, they were very much in your face, and it was very hard to find the recordings anyway. So it was really there to deter the bad objects. Then by 2000 or so, it moved into the phase that we're kind of still in, the phase of forensics. And it was kick-started by the DVR that finally made it possible to find the recordings because you couldn't do it before. And at the end, over the last 5 years or so, using IP cameras, you can actually see what's on the recordings as well. So it's really come a long way, but for a lot of people, they still think about cameras as a means of deterrence, so we need to educate them that. But what's even more important is that moving forward, we're moving into the phase of proactive video surveillance or proactive security. Because today, with the intelligence in the system, and also with the integration of other systems such as access control, the value of the system is so much greater. So when you walk into a deal and thinking about they have 30 cameras, there might be an opportunity for 300 or 600 cameras and shifting some budgets into video surveillance because the value is so much greater of the systems today.
So that leads us very naturally into the last slide, which is Axis' new vision statement that we changed a little bit at the beginning of the year. And that's very well connecting to being safe. And I think what Martin said as well, we all want to feel safe. And if you know the Maslow pyramid, once we've been drinking and eating, the next need we have as a human being is to feel safe. And if you look at this, innovating for a smarter, safer world, it's quite an ambitious statement that we are taking from Axis' side, but we like to be ambitious. There are 2 things, or a few things to highlight here as well. I think if you look into the worlds here, can you see one word which is very important for us? That's innovation. Innovation is something we say at Axis is in our DNA. We can't live without it. So it's very important to continue to be innovative. You can also see here that it doesn't say video surveillance in our vision statement. That was one of the reasons we had to change it, because when we launched the Axis Control, we took a step outside of the video surveillance. And maybe you'll see us, you'll have to use your imagination to imagine what we can do going forward as well. Another part is that we like to do things a little bit different. That's what the smarter stands for. So Light Finder, we saw it before, that's one example of it. We can do crazy golf carts, that's maybe another example of it. And the last part of it is the safer world. And we are today, I think you've heard me saying it before, we are present in 179 countries around the world, and there is, in the world, 192 countries. So that makes us a pretty global company. So for us, being able to serve the world is very, very important as well.
So how do we sum this up there? Well, this intro here, we want to show you all that we continue to be extremely busy, working very, very hard to continue to serve you with the best product, the best programs, and looking into the future as well. The good thing is that together, we have a lot of things to celebrate since we met last time in Chicago last year. A lot of good things have happened. The even better thing is that most of our work still remains. So with that being said, we are excited about the future potential. I hope you are, because we are looking forward to capture all that potential together with you. And with that being said, once again, welcome to the ACCC 2013, and thank you for joining us all.
Thank you very much.